This man's just gotta go, declared his enemies. But the ladies begged, don't you try to do it, please. No doubt this Rasputin had lots of hidden charms. Though he was a brute, they just fell into his arms. Then one night, some men of higher standing set a trap. They're not to blame. Come to visit us, they kept demanding. And he really came. Rasputin by Boney M.
He did come.
He did come. Well, he came multiple times. There's anything we've learned.
They really thought he was great, didn't they?
Really, truly, yeah. You know what we didn't do last time?
What?
This is Jen.
Oh, this is Becky.
It's too close to home. If you're still with us, if you were lost on episode 2, we were also Jen and Becky then.
We were.
It just dawned on me. I'm like,
it was so funny. I was thinking about them when we were talking, and then we got sidetracked. Shocking.
What? Us?
I know. Doesn't happen very often, but
the pinnacle of on time and structured, and some even say I'm quiet as a church mouse.
Who is some?
Nobody. So, of course, we're talking about Rasputin and the Romanovs, and it's part trace 3. Oh, no audience. No applause. I was like, wait a second. Why is there no applause? Jimmy, I'm going to need you to drop some applause in next time.
I was going to say he can drop in some cheers and applause.
Oh, thank you. Oh, my gosh. Thank you. Stop it. Keep going.
Oh.
So our sources, last podcast and last had their 4-series arc, episodes 310 to 313. Rasputin, The Untold Story by Joseph T. Furman, which is available on Audible. Rasputin, The Devil in the Flesh, Wikipedia, Encyclopedia Britannica, NPR, and if you love uncomfortably long sex scenes, The Last Tsars on Netflix.
Love them, live them, here for them.
Live, laugh, love, you know?
Yes.
Last time we talked about the Tsarina, her son's illness, and Rasputin's rise to fame, but today we're going to talk about the alcohol-filled fall of Rasputin, the drunken lecher.
Aw.
I love that word, lecher. You drunken lecher. It's like so
I'll be
classy.
sure to call you that. You were a drunken lecher last night.
Well, maybe not so much the lecher part, but very drunk. Drunk enough that I was like, we're stopping at McDonald's. And it was so good. It was so good. I was also drunk, so of course it tasted amazing.
Yeah.
It was like a beacon in the night. Those beautiful golden arches. And so after many years of living sober, Rasputin decided, let's fall off the wagon and ride into a wine barrel.
Yes.
And he would actually drink for the rest of his days. Rasputin's excessive fondness of Madeira is undisputed. He would see, there's a quote of his saying, "Go on, drink. God'll forgive you." Which, I mean, like, if I wasn't so hungover right now, I'd be like, same. That makes me want to vomit right this second. Just the horrible.
Oh.
His daughter Maria, while admitting that her father's drinking was out of control, said he was far from a typical lush. He never spoke so beautifully about God as when he was drunk, which I guess he always had those "I love you, man" parts of the night.
Oh, I do too.
I just fucking,
I love you, man.
I can't even imagine my life without you. Here's my dick. He always had to make it awkward.
One step too far.
Right? After a few glasses, Rasputin was known to leap to his feet in his tall patent leather boots and dance with ecstatic abandon to the music of 3 minstrel gypsies who accompanied him to his evening parties. Where does one hire minstrel gypsies? And why has that not been an option in my life?
Right?
I feel like I would be the hit of the Ren Fair.
I agree 100% wholeheartedly.
In fact, you know what? I think that's what we should do. We should go to the Ren Fair this year and have Jimmy and the kids dress up as minstrel gypsies.
I'm here for it.
And we dress up as royalty and just walk around.
Can I just be Rasputin?
Oh my God, yes.
Okay, I'm here for it.
You have to
I'll pencil it in my calendar.
And you have to look at people intensely without blinking your eyes.
And pull my dick out.
I'll
put a strap on and wear it all day. JK. Too far.
Never. Listen. Sausages on a stick, right? It's very
That's what you guys will call me for the day.
Hey, sausages. On a stick. What comes to as a surprise then is to learn that the Madeira monk supported the temperance movement, speaking out against the scourge of vodka and endorsing the sobriety society in his village. I already hate it. Sobriety society.
Yeah. Right?
You just go raw dog life. No, thank you.
No, thank you.
There would be times that he was too drunk to travel to even heal Alexei. So he would send telegrams and messages to the royals to heal him.
He's like, hey, I'll be there tomorrow.
His friendship with the imperial children were evident in the messages he sent to them. My dear Pearl M., Rasputin wrote to the 9-year-old Maria in one telegram in 1908. Tell me how you talked with the sea, with nature. I miss your simple soul. We will see each other soon. A big kiss. In a second telegram, Rasputin told the child, my dear M., my little friend, may the Lord help you to carry your cross with wisdom and joy in Christ. This world is like the day. Look, it's already evening. So is with the cares of the world. I don't even know what he was doing. He might have been on mushrooms.
Probably was.
Like, tell me, did you talk to the sea? What? How about talking to the sea?
Right?
Shh.
And it spoke right back. Jesus, Mother Mary.
Meanwhile, it's just me out there drunk on a beach.
Right?
We talking.
That is how I talk to the sea. What's up, please?
This bitch has the tea. In February 1909, Rasputin sent all the imperial children a telegram advising them to love the whole of God's nature, the whole of his creation, in particular this earth. The mother of God was always occupied with flowers and needlework.
Oh,
like,
I don't know what that means, but it's precious.
Same. Again, with these mushrooms. His contacts with the children were, by all accounts, completely innocent, but it wasn't without some questionable actions. One of the girls' governesses, Sofia Ivanova Chocheva, was that was a hard one.
Yeah.
I didn't even put the thing. I'm just guesstimating. I'm right. Stop it. They were horrified in 1910 because Rasputin was permitted access to the nursery where the 4 girls were in their nightgowns. Now, they say it's the nursery. It wasn't really, it was just their room. And they were also not 5. They were teenagers. And like gauzy, almost see-through nightgowns.
Oh, yeah.
So very weird. He eventually...
he just went over for a pillow fight.
Right? Just a little hot gasket. I'm not like other Rasputins. I'm a cool Rasputin. And so he was eventually banned at her request since it really was wholly inappropriate.
Yeah.
It was whispered in society that Rasputin had to seduce not only the Tsarina, but also the 4 grand duchesses. And this likely came from reports of several governesses' unease with him. Governess
You
Maria,
mean there were some people with sense that were like, I don't know, he's not giving me good vibes.
No. Something in my tummy says something's off.
Right?
Governess Maria Ivanova Vishkakova. Another one I did not do. Phonetics for.
You nailed it, though.
Thank you. Had at first been a devotee of Rasputin, but later disillusioned by him. She claimed in the spring of 1910 that she was raped by Rasputin. The empress refused to believe her, though, and said that everything Rasputin does is holy.
Uh-huh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Grand Duchess Olga Alexandrovna was told that Vishkakova's claim had been immediately investigated, but they caught the young woman in the bed with a Cossack of the Imperial Guards. So she was dismissed from her post in 1913. So the she asked for it thing has been around forever. Like this bitch.
So she got dismissed for banging the hot guard?
Yeah.
That's probably what would have happened to me back then.
Listen, this was consensual. That one was not.
Because when I'm married to the guy who's like all like soft and he's like the royal person's like, oh, and then there's the hot guard out there like banging people up and shit. I'm like, yeah.
So with knowing the security of his position, Rasputin's arrogance would continue to soar. He would be this huge braggart, the worst proportions, and he had significant influence over the Tsar and the Tsarina. He would tell people that the Tsar called him Christ incarnate, and would have people sarcastically call him father until it just became like, he's like,
call me daddy. Yeah. Call me daddy.
Yeah, like, this is ironic. Call me Big Papa. No. That really is my title. It really is. Right.
It was silly at first, right? But it's cool now. Yeah.
He even went as far as stating that they were under his thumb and that Alexandra would pray at his feet, swearing her allegiance that she would never abandon him, which that part was true. But
He made his wife do that?
no, that Alexandra just did it of her own volition. Was like,
see, again, that wouldn't be me. I'd be the one banging the hot guard that got dismissed from council.
exactly.
I'm not praying at your feet.
The church would get like really fucking pissed off because he was stealing their people, like their congregants, because they had to pay for pray kind of situation. So they were costing them money and they went about it. How they gonna have all their gold crosses if this motherfucker's having private audiences?
I can't have elephants covered in rubies and emeralds if you're out here doing this.
So they began to undermine him by spreading false rumors without success, really. They also had a bishop visit him to bring down the hammer, only for the bishop to be like so charmed by Rasputin and his melodic voice. It just nixed the whole plan.
How is he like getting all these people, man?
I don't know. Something about him. But there's also like so many stories of him just like looking at people unsettlingly and they're like, the fuck are you doing?
Oh, that awkward gaze. All right,
Like,
I'm going to start doing it to people.
Are you looking at me?
If I do stare at JJ too long, he looks away. He's like, what are you staring at me for?
I'll avert my eyes.
Yeah. Now pray at my feet.
And so during the as he should.
As he should.
During the height of his popularity, a ghost from his past returned. Sergei Mikhailovich Romanov, formerly known as Hieromonk Iliador or Hieromonk Heliodorus.
Look at you killing these names.
I mean, right? We're just going to call him Iliador, though. Okay. Makes it easy.
I'm here for it.
So while his greatest rival, Grigory Rasputin, has dominated popular culture for over a century, Iliador, like, I hadn't even heard of him until I started reading this shit. Be honest, he's barely a footnote. The Russian Orthodoxy wanted to get rid of Rasputin, so after several failed attempts, they used their old pal Hieromonk Iliador. Iliador was an anti-Semitic who, in 1903, became an ordained hieromonk under the name of Iliador. 2 years later, he graduated from the academy. This was like being a Russian priest. There was no wife and children and definitely no booty calls. He was stone sober, whereas Rasputin's like, sex, rock and roll, you know what I mean?
Right?
We fucking
Sex,
everybody.
drugs, and rock and roll.
Exactly. Rasputin was also pro-Jewish, and despite his previous misgivings about homosexuals, he had actually become
cool with it.
He was like, oh, no, it's fine. I get it now.
I, every now and then, like to play for the other team, too. It's
like,
okay.
Ally. And so Rasputin and Iliador had met through Theophan. Originally, Theophan was impressed with Grigory, but eventually it led to a falling out. In 1901, Theophan had already become an inspector. In 1909, he was appointed rector, which is the worst word, of St. Petersburg Theological Academy. He was a devout monarchist and came to the conclusion that Rasputin was a garrulous person, a false starets, and could be a danger to the throne. And they become, frenemies, basically. Iliador was livid at the mere suggestion that Rasputin had influence over the Nicholas and Alexandra. It was the main reason for the collapse of the monk's friendship with Rasputin. He was convinced that Rasputin had far too much power in the government, and Iliador returned to Tsaritsyn to unleash new and blistering attacks on the authorities, and now he included the Tsar. Which you don't do. I talk shit about the Tsar.
That's what you don't do.
Iliador wrote a brochure in 1906 directed at the Tsar in which he lambasted the Jews and the Duma, which is the Russian parliament, calling for the death penalty to be reinstated and demanding the Tsar rise up with violence against anyone who slandered, blasphemed, or committed any sort of crime against the state. He was so extremely outspoken. He stirred the masses just to gain followers and enemies. The Tsar and the Rasputin would have to save his acts from exile like several times. They're like, bro, I'm gonna need you to stop fucking popping off. You're getting on my fucking nerves. In 1909, Iliador and Rasputin visited his village by train. That's when his friendship with Rasputin was like, Rasputin would poke fun at Iliador for being a virgin.
He's like, you ain't even ever got your dick wet.
Like, bro, you never dip your dick in anything. You should get your private audiences. You good money and vagina. things at this point were just beyond fixing between Rasputin and Ilidor. So Ilidor is like, that's it. We'll have to get fucking Rasputin out of here because he's doing bad things to this, like he's making the Tsar make bad choices and shit because, you know, no one can make their own choices, but whatever. Of course, this wasn't actually known to Rasputin. He just seemed like a real fast and loose guy, just did not know what was going on or cared. But he was entirely too vocal for the Tsar, and Nicholas was getting fucking over his bullshit. So Ilidor's plan to get rid of Houston started with the help of a Finnish ballerina named Lisa Tansen. She invited Rasputin over, and they started taking shots of vodka back to back, right? Getting rowdy and shit-faced. She had some friends come over, and then once he got to, like, blackout drunk, she had brought out a fucking camera and was, like, taking lewd photographs with him.
They had cameras back then?
Yeah, but they were like those big ass fucking cameras. Like you might have had that thing over the back of your head. Like Civil War era. Like, But basically, you know, what's that movie? The Hangover? Kind of like that situation. Like, oh, we're just going to document every one of this.
Like when your friend gets drunk and you draw on their face.
Exactly. Only he was participating, but blackout drunk participating. You know what I mean? It's not consent. If you can't remember.
Okay? It's not.
Lessons. So, his daughter Maria Rasputin writes that the photographs were taken by magnesium light at night debaucheries, and perhaps on several occasions. So this didn't happen to him just once, but several times. He was just vibing, you know, giving no fucks. And then a couple days later, the photos show up at Rasputin's door, and they say, you either leave fucking town or the Tsar gets these photos. You want the Tsar to see your nudies?
He's like, I don't give a fuck.
And so he was like, bet. Took him straight to the king himself. Like,
yeah, see, he don't care.
He's like, forgive me, I'm a sinner. Like, I can help it.
Once again, it's the horniness that I was cursed upon.
It's my cross to bear. And so Nicholas was weirdly proud of him, and he was like,
yeah, that's my dog.
You know what? God forgives sinners, okay? And if they repent of their sins, you can too. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you on an all-expense paid vacation to Jerusalem. They're going to go see the Holy Land. And
get yourself right.
Right. He would observe Lent 1911 with a pilgrimage to the Holy Land, and he didn't do it on foot. Like the king or the Tsar paid for like train tickets. So this was actually a vacation. Like it was a really nice thing.
So you mean all I have to do is go get drunk and take lewd pictures and give them to my boss and he'll send me on a paid vacation?
Fuck yeah. You
all right.
I want to go to Disney World.
All right.
So realizing the plan backfired, he hooked up with Hermogenes, which was the Bishop of Tobolsk in Siberia. Hermogen was known to be a big bear of a dude, but like Mike Tyson with a really small voice, reportedly because he had castrated himself.
There we go. I knew it.
You're like, called it. Ilidor invited Rasputin over to his house for a party again and showed up. And when he showed up, Rasputin did, he figured out it was like an intervention, like a trap. There was Hermogen. There was Colonel.
He was like, where's the vodka?
Where's
Why
the
is there
ladies?
a sign that says intervention?
There's Colonel Ivan Rodionov and Dmitry Kolaba, which was, no lies, known as a epileptic nitwit. Okay. That's what they describe him as. They start lambasting him and hurling accusations that he had seduced and raped women, that he was drunk and he boasted of his influence, that he meddled in church affairs, he preached heresy while mingling sex and salvation, that he was a Khlisti, and that he had been caught in compromising situations that undermined the prestige of the throne.
Now tell me what I did wrong. All those are true, but what was wrong about any of it?
Like, what was I not supposed to do?
Right?
So Rasputin starts talking back, be like, bro, I'm innocent. And then the half-wit Dmitry got super fucking angry and just grabbed Rasputin's dick.
That's usually what I do when I'm mad too. Like, I'll be getting on my coworkers and I'm like, let me tell you something. And I grab their dick.
Grab life by the dick, you know?
Exactly.
I just like so angry. He's just like, rah! And could you imagine both of them just like looking up, down, like, oh, That escalated very fast.
That's the most closeted. Just come out of the closet, buddy.
It's okay.
Remember, we're all Rasputin is accepting. And
yeah, he'd probably go with it. Hey, a mouth, a mouth.
I bet we could ask JJ and Jimmy as mad as they've ever been at another man. They never felt the need to reach out and grab his dick.
No, never, not one time.
But we'll have to ask him because we could be wrong.
So he wiggles free from the dick clutch, but he's trapped in the room. And Hermogen is dressed in his finest vestments, holding a big ass gold cross. Like he's about to have the power of Christ compel you or some shit, like you would get excised. And the group decided, okay, we're going to drag him to the chapel and we're going to make him swear that he'll never go back and see the imperial family. They told him, you need to go to the monastery of the caves at Kiev to pray for forgiveness. And then you're going to need to make another pilgrimage to Mount Athos in Jerusalem to atone for your sins. And then you won't return to Russia for 3 years. If you disobey me, I'll pronounce an anathema against you. Pretty much like, I'll fuck up your world, man.
It's always the best way to get people to turn to Christ.
And what do
threats?
And what do kidnappers always say? Don't go to the
police. So
they say, you better not go to the Tsar. You better not.
Yeah, I promise I won't tell anybody.
As soon as Rasputin were promised, they left him alone, and then he went straight to the royal family.
Duh.
Hermogen was stripped of his seat at the Holy Synod and ordered into exile. Hermogen was thrown into a car and took him directly to the railway station. And he was placed on a train, and they took him away from St. Petersburg. Like, usually they would have a trial, but, like, Nicholas was like, the fuck we will. You're going the fuck on now. Out. Into
Siberia.
The train.
One-way ticket.
Exiled. I want to start doing that to people. Like, exiled.
Wish could.
Not even want to say canceled anymore. You're exiled, bitch.
Mm-hmm.
And so Iliador was pissed. And then he denounced the Orthodox Church as an abomination and desolation, claiming that Christ is not in it. The Holy Synod was a, quote, house of pigs. As for Nicholas and Alexandra, quote, a dog lies on the throne. The sovereign emperor is a little man, a drunk, a weed puffer, and a fool.
A weed puffer?
Yeah.
Yes.
And the empress is a Rasputinaya, which is a debauched woman. And the heir was fathered by Grishka Rasputin. Sabler and Grishka Rasputin rule the state, not the Tsar.
Oh.
Iliador petitioned the Holy Synod to revoke his clerical rank while he renounced his faith, signing the sacrament in his own blood.
Oh, shit.
Right?
He was angry.
He goes, orthodoxy was only magic and superstition. Its priests were stupid people. That's a quote.
He was really angry.
He's denying the divinity of Christ, the resurrection, and the eternal salvation he promised to establish a new faith free of superfluous elements like marriage and sacraments. I was a sorcerer and fooled the people, Iliador proclaimed. I am a deist. Paganism is a fine religion. Dramatic? Much? Already with I'm gonna put my blood first. Do you want a bloodborne disease? Like, this feels like, what if I got a paper cut? Ugh.
I am sure there is hepatitis everywhere.
Arwar. Last episode, we talked a little bit about how the Prime Minister Stiopin did not like Rasputin. So we're going to pick up on that terrible relationship. He was both the Prime Minister and the Minister of Interior, and that's the bureau that oversaw the police. In combining those two positions, Nicholas was placing the entire power of the Russian states in the hands of a single person, and that person was Stiopin.
And he didn't like Rasputin. It's not good for Rasputin.
Yeah. He tried and failed to spread the Semestvo system throughout Russia, and it was like a property system. He was also not liked by Alexandra because he wasn't a Rasputin fan. So he asked to resign eventually. Like, he's like, I'm fucking over this. He had ordered a investigation into Rasputin and presented it to the Tsar, who read it but did nothing. Stiopin, of his own authority, ordered Rasputin to leave St. Petersburg. And then Alexandra protested vehemently, but Nicholas refused to overrule his prime minister, who had more influence with the emperor, really. With Stiopin's time in the office ending, they were like, all right, now we got to find a new prime minister. British prime ministers are elected by the House of Commons or Parliament, whatever the fuck it's called. I'm not British. I'm American. That shit went out in 1776. Anyways, I know I'm the worst. The Tsar was the person who appointed the prime minister of the Duma.
That seems like a conflict of interest, but whatever.
That's what I said. Nicholas turned to a private citizen, the conservative journalist George Sazonov, to help him find Stolpin's successor. He was at the time considering former Prime Minister Sergei Witt, Vladimir Kokostov, and there's another one. Oh, it's Kokostov and Kovostov. There's two different guys with almost the exact same name. It took me about 20 minutes to figure that out because that was a very confusing part of my story.
Oh.
Kokostov was competent, if not gifted, and he was attracting universal praise as a minister of finance. Kostov was repulsively fat and was generally regarded as a scoundrel. The chatter around...
That's the one they picked, I'm sure.
No. The chatter around Kostov was quite negative, and yet he fascinated the emperor. I feel like the emperor loves red flags.
He loves them. His room has got to be adorned with them.
So Nicholas was like, Sazonov, the private citizen, and Rasputin, they sent him to visit Kovstov at Nizhny Novgorod. Nizhny Novgorod. There we go. Where he was serving as the governor. He took Rasputin with him, and Rasputin just sat there and gazed into his soul. He just stared at him without blinking. And Kostov was like, what the fuck? But okay.
He's like, what's with the weird guy in the corner staring at me?
and so, if you recall, like, nobody knows why he's so important to the emperor. It seems like...
Oh, that's right. That's right. Because it's a secret that his kid's got hemophilia.
So it just seems like they have this mystic, like in Anastasia, like he's this mystic that's actually taking over the czars when it was mystic medicine.
Right.
Hoodoo.
Mystic. It was just mystic medicine.
Mystic medicine. However, Prime Minister Stolpin would not retire from office. After meeting Kostov, Rasputin traveled to Kiev for the 50th celebration of the abolition of serfdom. While watching the parade of dignitaries, Rasputin had a sudden premonition as Stolpin's carriage drove by of a tragedy that would soon occur. Quote, "Death is following him," Rasputin shouted. "Death is riding behind him, behind Peter. Don't you believe me?" And he tossed and turned that night, mumbling repeatedly, "Death is coming. Don't you believe me?" Nobody took him seriously.
Nobody believed him.
The following evening, on September 1st, 1911, Nicholas II was in the imperial box with his daughters, Olga and Tatiana, while Stolpin was seated on the ground floor at the front of the audience. After the second act, Stolpin was standing in front of the ramp, separating the walkway from the orchestra, his back to the stage, his personal bodyguard having stepped out for a smoke. Stolpin was shot twice, once in the arm and once in the chest, by Dmitry Bagrov, a Jewish leftist revolutionary. Because remember, he was very anti-Semitic. Bagrov ran to one of the entrances, but he was caught. Stolpin rose from his chair, removed his gloves, not his gun, unbuttoned his jacket, exposed a blood-soaked waistcoat. He gave a gesture to the Tsar to go back and made the sign of the cross. He remained conscious, but his condition deteriorated, and he died 4 days later.
Eesh, 4 days. Yikes.
So the prophecy was true. And that, was it. That was, that final thing that, oh, see, I told you, he killed him. And then he said he was going to die. And you know what happened? He died. You fuck around.
And find out.
So at that point, they were like, all right, Rasputin, I'm going to need your help to find out who's going to be the best prime minister. And this would not be the last time that the Tsar would rely on a stinky monk's advice on affairs of state.
Yeah.
So Nicholas chose Vladimir Kokostov, which was the one who was the Minister of Finance, the good choice or whatever, to succeed Stolpin as the head of the government. The new prime minister opposed appointing Alex Kostov, which was his opponent for prime minister, for the Minister of Interior, noting his lack of experience and extreme anti-Semitic views. And also, we just had somebody who was also anti-Semitic, get murdered. So I'm like, maybe that's not the vibe for us. Kokostov was just settling in his new duties when he received a letter from Rasputin. I'm planning to leave for good and would like to see you to exchange your thoughts. Kokostov said, say less. Don't come on down.
Say less, fam.
When Rasputin entered the office, he sat down without saying a word. His eyes were fixed to me, he recalled. His eyes set in their deep sockets, close to each other, small and still gray in color. Rasputin did not take them off me for a long time, as if he imagined he were casting some sort of hypnotic spell. Or was he merely studying me? Finally, Rasputin asked, so, should I leave or not? I don't have a life anymore, and they're telling tales about me. And he's like, yeah, it would be good.
Yeah, you should probably go.
He goes, your place is not here, and you're threatening the sovereign by appearing at the palace and feeding the most outlandish notions and conclusions. Rasputin's like, my bad. No, literally, he goes, okay, I'm bad. It's like your friend who doesn't speak English as a first language going, instead of saying my bad, I'm bad. I'll go. Next time they call me for something or other, let them do without me. Rasputin stared at the prime minister for a while.
Thinking he was going to be like, you know what? I changed my mind.
And then he finally jumped up and said, so long, shagged ass.
All right.
This was actually a test by Rasputin, in which, of course, he failed. And so, of course, Alexandra knew, and she was pissed. And when Nicholas questioned him, he was like, I would never, ever. And Nick was like, woo, I was hoping you'd say so because, like,
I was scared.
Right? Kokostov said that Rasputin was like every other Siberian tramp he had ever seen during his time as a prisoner.
Tramp?
Yeah.
Yes.
As a prison administrator, which sounds like something we were saying, like, I've seen his type. He's like, people like that will grab you by the throat and strangle you while they made the sign of the cross with a smile on their lips. And I was like, ooh, saucy. I like it. And so in 1912, a whole new crisis emerges about Rasputin.
Of course.
Michael Nosilov published a pamphlet in 1910 titled Gregory Rasputin and the Mystical Debauchery that recycled the old stories about Rasputin, some true, some false. And then he claimed that although the Siberian mystic and healer was a Kleist, he was supported by people in high places. Like there starts with the N, ends with the Icarus. You know? This isn't helped by the fact that the police raided the publisher's office and destroyed the printing plates for the pamphlets. So that screamed guilty.
Right.
Alexander Guchov deplored the situation. He was the leader of the Octoberist Party and the president of the Third Duma. The Duma, like, I guess they had, it's like seasons. It's just the third season of Duma. He pressed his luck off, and as he felt that Nicholas and Alexandra were idiots under the spell of Rasputin. And within the Fourth Duma, they elected a new president. The deputies chose Michael Rodzianko, another Octoberist leader, and he was quite different from his predecessor. While Guchov had hoped to discredit Nicholas, Rodzianko loved the Tsar and set out to a mission to persuade Nicholas to restore the faith in the government by sending Rasputin home. The Tsar asked for his opinion of Rasputin as well, and he was like, well, honor compels me to tell the truth, but I'm happy to not say a word if you prefer it. And Nicholas said, go ahead, just lay it on me. And so he listened to Rodzianko going on about all these stories, just smoking cigarette after cigarette, being like, And then Rodzianko hands him a photo of Rasputin dressed as a priest, and Nicholas was like, wait a fucking second. He goes, yes, this is really going too far. He has no right to wear a pectoral cross. Which, never thought I would say that, but...
Right.
But Nicholas rejected the request that Rasputin be expelled from the capital. Regardless of everyone saying that Rasputin was a piece of shit, the Romanovs held fast. Saints are always calumniated, complained Alexander to Dr. Boykin, the family physician. Although the Empress knew that some of the accusations against Rasputin were true, she insisted that the entire scandal stemmed from jealousy. He is hated because we love him.
Anus.
Right? He hates because we anus. We hate us because we're anuses? She told Anna Yarova, he is hated because we love him. But that is until letters that were stolen from the arrogant Rasputin by Iliador made their way to Nicholas. We already know that he loved to brag, but he was showing people like, Oh, we talk all the time. Look, we exchange letters back and forth. This is my paramour, blah, 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 blah. Talking his massive shit. Some of them were to the royal children. One, like, they had several from Princess Olga, where she's talking about a young crush of an officer. And he's like, just don't spend too much time with him. In those letters from the royal children, it hints to Alexandra's increasingly fragile health. Like, she was super anxious. Like, she couldn't hardly stand and stuff like that. She was in very terrible health, but you didn't put that information out because they were, God picked them and shit.
Right.
And she would write things like, God grant that dear mama will not be sick anymore this winter. Another was from Alexandra, and it was written February 7th, 1909, and here's a part from it. It is an unspeakable joy that you, our beloved, were here with us. How can we thank you enough for everything? I wish only one thing, to fall asleep on your shoulder. You are our all. Forgive me, my teacher. I know I have sinned much and still do. Forgive and be patient. I try to do better, but I don't succeed. I know that much of what I do and think is not good. I want to be a good Christian, a good person, but it's so hard. So often I have to fight bad habits. But help me. Don't abandon me. I am weak and not good. I love you and believe in you. God grant us the joy of meeting soon. I kiss you warmly. Forgive me. Bless me. I am your child.
This was to Rasputin?
From the Tsarina. But they won't fucking.
I was just going to say.
They know unequivocally that she did not sleep with Rasputin, even though there was rumors. She was just spiritually and utterly a cult member of Rasputin's.
Yeah. That's sad.
Gustav and Nicholas confirmed that the documents were genuine when they finally were retrieved. Given the rumors that had been swirling for several months, it made it look like, oh, this is proof. This is it. Alexandra was pissed, so she sent an angry telegram to Pokrovskoye chastising Rasputin for his carelessness. His excuse was, well, Iliador had to have stolen these letters. It's not like I tried to get this shit out there. And then but the Empress was in no mood for excuses, and so she stopped receiving him back at the capital. Like, she wouldn't see him. Oh, really? Mm-hmm. And since she wouldn't meet with him, he's like, fuck it. I'm going to go back to Pokrovskoye and just do my thing. Live, laugh, love. However, during a vacation in 1912 to the Białowieża forest between Poland and Belarus, which was a popular vacationing spot for them, Alexei jumped into a rowboat and hit his groin on the oarlocks, which is that little thing that holds the oar. Within a few moments, he suffered a large bruise. It would diminish in size, but not in danger. Within a few weeks, Alexei and his mother were riding in a carriage, and the jostling of the vehicle actually caused the hematoma to open up again and hemorrhage into his upper thigh and abdomen. Eek. And so for 11 days, he suffered an extreme pain. He was swollen. It was so painful in the hip and one leg that he had to keep it drawn up at all times. He would beg his mother to help him and pray to God. He was 8 years old. Could you imagine? Oh. He became very concerned with his own demise and asked his parents, 8 years old now, build me a little monument of stones in the woods. When I'm dead, it won't hurt anymore, will it?
Aww.
Right? The seriousness of the situation finally warranted the royals to disclose that he was ill, but not the hemophilia portion. They kept it under close wraps, so close that they made the servants wear cotton in their ears. So they could see that he was in pain and suffering, but they couldn't understand what they were talking about. He received his last sacrament on October the 8th, and by the 10th, a medical bulletin announcing his impending death had been published in the papers.
Shit.
Alexandra would finally break down and have her lady-in-waiting get Rasputin and be like, we need you get here real quick, fast, and in a hurry and heal this boy. I need you to lay some hands. He ended up sending 2 telegrams. One of them was like, it's not as serious as they say. Don't let the doctors bother him too much. It's going to be fine. And then the other one, they didn't say what was in it particularly, but within a few days, he rapidly improved and the hematoma mysteriously healed itself. The leg pain, though, was still so bad that that was like the only remnants left. Like, he ended up having to go to like an orthopedic surgeon because he couldn't really walk without his leg drawn up without pain. But that was it. His hematoma had completely healed. Yet another instance of like, oh, definitely. He's a healer.
Rasputin, yeah.
they would never take another chance again. And he became a permanent staple. They would not try to exile him again. On June 28th, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, was assassinated by a Bosnian Serb nationalist in Sarajevo who opposed Austria-Hungary's annexation of Bosnia-Herzegovina, which is the reason, or the first thing that happened to set off the chain of events that led to World War I.
Interesting.
Why does this matter to the Romanovs? Well, the too long didn't read version is that after the assassination of the Austrian heir to the throne in June 1914, Austria-Hungary declared war on Russia's ally Serbia, which made Russia enter World War I to support Serbia. But just 2 weeks after the assassination of Franz Ferdinand, Rasputin would almost be assassinated himself.
Mm-mm.
On July 12th, a courier came to his home in Pokrovskoye with a telegram from Alexandra, because remember, he still would go home and visit and everything. He read it, and he asked the courier to stay so he could write a response. And this person started walking up to him, and he assumed it was a beggar, so he goes to start pulling money out of his pocket. And that's when a 33-year-old peasant woman named Chinyonya Gostieva attempted to assassinate Rasputin by stabbing him in the stomach with a 15-inch dagger.
Yikes.
He screams, "I've been stabbed!" and runs. Gostieva reportedly screamed, "I have killed the Antichrist!" After the attack. I have killed the Antichrist! I love that. After the attack, and then she proceeds after him because he goes running. She comes running. He grabs a stick, supposedly hits her in the fucking head. And before she could stab him again, the neighbors had already there ain't nothing going on. It's fucking Siberia.
Right.
You hear some commotion, I'm going to get nosy.
Right.
And so they ended up pulling her off of him. She had a veil over her face. And when they lifted the veil, she had no nose.
Oh.
And so immediately you think syphilis. Apparently it was medicine that caused her nose to fall off when she was a child.
Medicine, by medicine you mean a little
little booger sugar. And apparently it was damaged, so it fell off. It wasn't syphilis. Rasputin did
Boring.
not. Rasputin would go on to call her forever the slut who stuck a knife up my ass. He ended up losing parts of his intestines, but during that portion of them trying to fix him up, he refused anesthesia. The fuck I would.
He likes a little BDSM too.
Right?
Pain is pleasure.
He probably rock hard the whole time.
Probably.
He was close to dying. He spent 49 days in the hospital and eventually recovered, but would live the remainder of his short life in pain. And he would treat it with Madeira wine, pretty much.
Okay.
I also like to treat the inner pain with wine. That's why I'm hurting today. Gostieva was a follower of Iliador, a former priest that we talked about earlier. She had previously supported Rasputin before denouncing his sexual escapades and self-aggrandization. Why do I have to use all these fancy words?
Because you fancy, girl. You fancy.
I try. I think it's because I just like the way they sound, so it makes me feel cool.
Then you try to read them, you're like,
I'd be like, ooh. You should better.
I
You
gave
know
myself
yourself
a
better.
little too much credit.
You from Florida, okay? You got a degree from Georgia for high school education. No, thank you.
Duval?
Duval. She said that she had done it on her own accord, and Iliador was like, bro, it was not me. This bitch was crazy. And then he dressed up as a woman and fucked off to Norway. Like, all right, going in hiding.
It wasn't me.
Russia announces that they're going into the war. Alexandra sends Rasputin to Moscow on a pilgrimage, hoping to revitalize his image as a holy man who survived assassination attempt. However, he showed his ass the first fucking night out by pulling a Trump and grabbing him by the hoo-ha. And was a hella mouth saying he fucked Alexandria. And people are like, oh my God, are you really Rasputin? And he was like, if I wasn't Rasputin, would I have this? And pulls out his stick and starts waving it around.
He
He don't get
enough with the shenanigans already.
Every time you turn around, his dick's out. He doesn't get in trouble, surprisingly.
So he's just going to keep doing it.
Yep. And as the war continues, the Russian army is extremely unprepared and struggled. There was such a huge shortage of guns and bullets. There were soldiers going into battle without rifles.
With sticks?
Get back. Lord of the prayer, hoping that they would come across a fucking rifle that had been dropped by a dead soldier. Like,
yikes.
Jimmy's Fun Facts. I may be paraphrasing a tad, but there is an idiom in regards to World War I and World War II era Russian military doctrine. If shot is exhausted, hit with butt of rifle. If butt is broken, bite with teeth. The premise is exceedingly simple and follows the Maoist train of thought when it comes to war. That is, to attack the adversary with overwhelming numbers, use any equipment they find and any means necessary to gain ground, and that for every soldier killed, there are 10 more waiting in the wings. And trust me, there were a lot killed. Even conservative estimates place approximately 3 million Russian deaths in World War I and 16 million Russian deaths in World War II.
I don't know if I would have done. I've been like, you know what? What do they call it when you deserter? I'm a deserter. Fuck
Yeah,
it.
I would have been too.
Shoot me now.
Yeah, they don't have a bullet to shoot you.
No. What's that? No bullets, you say? They were starving, and the equipment they had was actually 30 to 40 years old too,
nice.
as well. So
And this is already the early 1900s, so shit, even at its top peak, is not
like
great.
probably some like fucking cannonballs and shit, some like George Washington specials.
Right.
The Tsar was like, my people need me, and decided I need to run the military despite his extreme lack of experience in military strategy.
You just get guns and go pow, 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 right?
Exactly.
Okay, see,
You
I
get
could
these
be a
little
military leader.
figurines, and you get to make them dance.
Exactly. I'm going to make this guy go pow, 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 and this one's going to go shake, 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 and the war's over, and we won.
Look at that. And that's how the War of Russia is won.
Thank you. I'll become your new general.
Now, surprisingly, even Rasputin and Alexander are like, you sure you want to do this?
I don't know if that's a good idea.
But after the years of her ball busting him and being like, you're weak and the Tsar needs to be strong. Like, basically, he was pussy whipped, you know?
Right. As most men
He
are.
was like, you know what? I'm all in and I'm going to do it. And they're like, you know what? Go for it, son. I'm here. I stand. Okay.
I feel like that's when you need someone to be like, so you are really good at reading and you're really good at writing, but it's not your strongest suit to lead an army. So maybe we should leave that to the professionals.
Yeah. Let's leave that one to the real people who can do this. And so with his absence from St. Petersburg, he needed somebody he trusted running shit. And that's how Alexander fumbled into being a shitty substitute Tsar.
Hey.
And that, of course, means that Rasputin was acting as Tsar since she trusted him to help in all her decision making.
He's like, what the soldiers should probably do is what I do, and it's pull my dick out. It works every time.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, didn't work? They lost?
That's the different kind of... when you said guns, I was
like, get your gun out.
Hey! So, and also think about how much he drinks.
Yeah.
So he's making like some real
drunken
serial
war decisions.
He was so drunk all the time. His personal guard had 8 varying levels of drunkenness that they would be like, okay, so he's
just 7.
He's dead drunk. Oh, he's a little buzzed. Like, he's number 1 today, y'all. He's starting out strong. He's 10. He passed the 8. He on the 10. I don't even know what you call it.
Crepe and talk to him if you're going to, because he's at a 2. It's all downhill.
It's all downhill over here. Y'all keep the Madeira away from him. All that drinking, though, gives one impotency, aka whiskey dick. So it's not like he was fucking, or at least.
Right?
She, though, would send Nicholas holy relics of Rasputin's. And by holy relics, to be like his nasty ass old comb, to be like, run that shit through your hair before you go into battle.
Gross.
She'd save his like bread crust from his
it.
sandwiches and be like, I'm gonna need you to eat these. And he did. He did.
No, ma'am. Again, that's how you get the poop poops.
Rasputin also, like, people think he had these devious plans. Motherfucker just wanted to like schmooze and booze and fuck and screw, and he didn't really. He just wanted to be in a good spot. He was actually very pro Russia, pro peasant, like pro equality.
He
all
was
these
like
things
out to like ruin anything. I think he just did that by his own nature.
Yeah, he was just like, he did not leave it to the professionals. He didn't, so they would riff off each other, Rasputin and Alexandra, and they'd be like, oh my God, you're so smart. And he'd be like, oh my God, you're so smart. Nicholas is going to love this. And so then they would come to Nicholas with these ideas and these appointments, and he'd be like, say less, and appoint these terrible people. And so in 16 months, she appointed 4 prime ministers, 5 ministers of the interior, and 3 ministers of war. And still, not a single soul knew about the hemophilia and their imagined requirement of his guidance.
They were doing a fucking fantastic job keeping a lid on that.
Right? Yeah, that wouldn't even happen these days. No. It just looked like a German witch with her side piece. That's what the Russians thought, you know. One outspoken member of the Duma, a far-right politician named Vladimir Perishkevich, stated in November 1916 that he had held the Tsar's ministers and had, quote, been turned into marionettes whose threads had been taken firmly in the hand by Rasputin and the Empress Alexandra Fyodorovna, the evil genius of Russia and the Tsarina, and who remained a German on the Russian throne and alien to the country and its people. So it's pretty rough. Some real serious, like, roasting in 1916 terms.
Right.
That bitch is fucking German.
She a hoe.
She a hoe. And her mom is too. He would go on to say that Rasputin's influence of this arena had made him a threat to the empire. An obscure mujik shall govern Russia no longer. While Rasputin is alive, we cannot win. And this would be a warning of what was to come.
Dum, dum, dum.
And that's where we're going to leave off, because next time we're going to talk about how old Gregory and the Romanovs kick the bucket.
I'm excited to hear.
I'm excited to be done with it.
I feel invested.
Well, I mean, if I've not dissuaded you by all the dick flashing by now.
You haven't. It's only drawn me in more.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I even cut down the dick.
It's grade A reporting.
Listen. Thanks,
if you
Wikipedia.
are reporting and you don't include dick stories, do I even want to hear?
I don't want to hear it.
No,
I don't want to even be involved.
Exactly.
Not
my vibe.
Me. And so don't forget to check us out on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat. Leave us a review. Tell us how beautiful and wonderful we are. How much you're enjoying hearing about Rasputin's dick.
Yes, let us know.
Check out our merch. And let us know your own Too Close to Home story. We're hoping to do a listener story episode soon. So get them in.
Yes.
Too Close to Home at yahoo.com. And until next time,
stay safe.
Keep your head on a swivel.
And don't bring it too close to home unless they're going to have dicks out.
Dicks out. Private audiences and such.
Always a private audience.
Bye. I hope I could go for some bread crust of Rasputin's, If you enjoyed this episode of Too Close to Home, don't forget to rate and subscribe to us on most platforms. Follow us on our social media at Too Close Home Pod on Facebook, at Too Close Podcast on Instagram, or if you have your own Too Close to Home experience, shoot us your story at tooclosetohome@yahoo.com. Thanks for listening.